So the topic, we are going to be very, very simple the way we go because we have already gone far. Most of the things I would have talked about are already discussed.
Yeah.
So the topic is activating grace and favor for a blissful marriage. And they used Esther 2:17, which reads, "The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti." But here, I want to ask, how can you activate joy in your marriage? Before I go on to that, let me appreciate Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Alexander and their team for what they've done. And you look at this season of pandemic and restiveness of youth and other embittered persons in the society, I see this as a very timely activity because many people have forgotten about the family. And this conference reminds us of the values that are embedded in the Christian marriage and families. Because sometimes people ignore the roles of families, marriages, and relationships in such times as this, forgetting that like birds that fly up there, their toes facing down, showing that whatever height, it will land on the ground. So as at now, many persons are going into depression caused by illnesses, displacement, poverty, death, insecurity, and uncertainties. Many times we tend to forget that home is the best place to return to get succor. So to avoid being consumed by some of the crises, one needs a comfortable and peaceful home. Because when you go out, you need a home to return to. So today we are talking about marriage. And I said that God has a purpose for marriage and companionship in the creation of God's, in the creation work of God. He created Eve from Adam's rib to provide him with comfort and companionship. And I believe God did that because everybody, there's nobody that wouldn't love himself or herself. You are here, you want it to look the best, everything about you, except there's something wrong with you. So by God removing that rib from the man was a guarantee that it's a must that Adam will love Eve, because that's part of it. But in our marriages today, are our wives and our husbands seen as part of us? Do we see our husbands and wives as ourselves? So particularly as it was part of his body, nobody should hurt himself. And this means that sustainable marriages are based on what? Love. Like somebody asked when we started that, is it money or is it what? Love that sustains marriage. I believe it's what? Love. But many people misinterpret the meaning of love. Some have sworn to be with one another in all situations, for better and for what? Worse. Till they do them part. But when the worst comes, they fail. They find it hard to keep the promise for the worst. They only think of what? The better. So what are those attributes that will activate favor and joy in a marriage? When we talk about love, anytime we talk or think love, we think of marriage, and what comes to mind is love, romance, togetherness, sex and children, and then family. And we think that it's very easy. Sometimes we think falling in love is a very easy thing. It's falling in love and in love with that person. Sometimes it's even infatuation that we are thinking is love. Isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, how are you sure you are falling in love with the right person? And then, how do you intend to stay in love? That's another thing. Because of expectations of the people that claim to be in love. Is it possible to stay in love as long as the marriage remains? Is it?
Yes.
It is. It is what we call marriage sustainability. It is possible, but what? Difficult.
Yeah.
Because it requires understanding and work. It's not easy, as people think. Even when there is money, even when there is every comfort, there are so many temptations in life and requirements that it's very difficult to stay in love for the number of years. I've seen some cases on internet that people are married for 50 years, 60 years, and we don't know the secret. And the title also mentioned singles. I don't know if we still have singles here. This is where the singles come in, courtship. The quality of courtship plays a big role in the success of marriage sustainability. It is not the length of time, but the quality. Because I've been hearing questions like, how long should courtship be for the marriage to work? You can court for 100 years. You can court for 1 day, and the one of 100 years will fail, while the one of 1 day will stand. So that's why I say that is equality. And the main thing in courtship is what? It's a period of studying to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each other, because that's all you are dealing with. It is very important in the role support and the definition of boundaries and limits, respect and expectations. You have to talk. She mentioned communication. The main thing is communication. You have to be transparent. You have don't carry. There's in this book I have what we call baggages. People carry baggages into marriages, and it causes a lot of problems. So before you go into marriage, you have to discuss those things that you think will disturb you, those secrets that you think you have. I forgot to mention, we were talking about divorce. God hates divorce. You know that Catholic Church those days, when some people used to marry in Catholic so that they into their marriages. But now, in Catholic, I'm a marriage course teacher in Catholic. We now have what we call, we have counselors, but I don't know why I should get out of my head. We have tribunals now, and we have experts there that have studied marriage, canon law, all those. And we have seen that the Catholic mission has now seen that it's a kind of bondage and wickedness to tie people forever into a situation that is not, is ungodly, and God may not even like it. So they have brought out conditions that marriages should be settled by those in the marriage tribunals. Some of those things like lies, serious lies, like a man knows that he's impotent, a woman knows she has no womb. Though marriage, the main purpose for marriage is not for children, it's first for companionship. But there are certain lies that will call for divorce these days. We don't need to send somebody to Pope again, because those days it was impossible for you to send your letter to Pope for Pope to approve. Now, every church, every archdiocese now has what we call tribunal. So if they find out that you are telling lies about your marriage and things that another person cannot do, they can sit together and decide to dissolve the marriage. Because a lot of people are going through what they should not go through. And love, we have been saying it, I love you, I do it for love. But do we know that love is an action word? You don't just love without showing it. That's why somebody said, if you, even handkerchief. God showed us love by sending his own son to us. So you cannot love without gifts. They call it what? Action word. Though sometimes it's good to express it verbally to your partner, but it's better to act it more to develop trust and confidence. Somebody told them, who was the person?